This time we install a replacement signal from Absolute Aspects. We carry out some very serious shunting work and some remedial back-to-back maintenance because of my rogue diesel parcels unit. Hi, welcome back to Chadwick Model Railway. I'm Charlie. What's this one all about? Well, it's mainly looking at shunting, but please don't turn off straight away. I'm sure there'll be something for everybody. But it's not just about trains running around in circles, but this time very much hands-on with shunting operations and a reflection on the way the real world works, or it did in the 1970s, with shunting operations and shunting and guards vans getting in the way and all that kind of palaver. Right, now before I kick off with that, I've got to come clean. I tried to install a little CCTV camera in my railway room the other day, and needless to say I stood on the layout and trod on my head shunt signal. Marvellous. So I got on to Tom at Absolute Aspect and said, "Tom, can I have another one?" And obviously he made me another one and billed me accordingly. But this one's a little bit different. It's worth mentioning because around the 1970s, where I am, to go from the goods yard to the main line, you get two whites on this head shunt signal, but to go into the head shunt, as you would normally, it's a white and a yellow in the horizontal. But this one has two facilities, because if you're in a later era, then again you get the two whites on the diagonal to go to the main line, but you get two yellows in a horizontal to go into the head shunt. So there's a subtle change, but this signal is made so you can do both should you wish to change eras. And now here it is wired into the layout, and as you can see it's a 1970s configuration with a horizontal white and a yellow. And if we throw the point to allow access to the main lines, we get our two white lights in a sort of a diagonal configuration. This allows us obviously traffic to come straight from the goods yard out onto the main lines. And then once that's complete, the signal will then go back to a white and a yellow, giving us constant access then into the head shunt. Right, shunting operations. Now you may know that I run a DCC layout and I tend to use ESU decoders. Now with ESU decoders, as much as anyone else, loads of companies do this, I think, there's something called an uncoupled shuffle. Now it's just something you program in, but no problems if you're a DC guy and you can't do this, because it just means with KD couplings running over magnets, you just have to sort of take your time and be a little bit more professional perhaps, rather than pressing a button as more modern layouts do. And here you can see my 08 shunter, and then when I press the uncoupled shuffle, it moves backwards slightly and then moves away. And what that would do is compress the KD couplings, and then over a magnet they would part and pull away. And it's exactly the same for the high mech here, except the movement is considerably larger. Now these are the two locos that we're going to use in Revells yards shortly, and my good friend Richard has come over to give me a hand. The reason for it is if I'm using the camera, I clearly can't use the handset and do all the shunting, so I've asked Richard to do the shunting and all the loco movements, and of course changing some of the points, although when he's busy with that I can try and change some of the points myself to sort of speed up the process, as it were. But you can see the problems that we encounter, whether it be with poor positioning of magnets, not planning the routes through and that sort of thing. So hopefully you'll come and join me and we'll get stuck into that. And so a quick refresher on Revells yard. We have the main line coming up from the bridge, and it comes into a three-way point. If you go straight through the three-way point, you come across a solenoid uncoupler, straight down the centre to another solenoid uncoupler, and these are operated by a small switch on the side. So your arrivals train would come in, uncouple, go into the head shunt, and then come back and then go into a loco storage area here. You have shunters in the area, and they will break up your train, take your guards van off the back and put it over in the guards van area ready to build your outgoing train, and then of course feed the vans or whatever from this train into the local industries. There will be an industry here and two more sidings for an industry over here. It's quite a complex layout really, because you've got one three-way point, you have two double slips, and at the other end another three-way point and another couple of points here. But it makes it all the more exciting. Now, besides the two solenoid uncouplers, there are magnets dotted around the layout to enable the shunters to do their work. Right, let's go get a train. Could I just ask if you're a subscriber? Because if you're not, could you hit the button? And if you are a subscriber, can you just hit it anyway, just to check you are? Because there's been some funny goings on at Google. And so our high neck with 3 vans and 3 cement wagons makes its way onto the arrivals line. Richard then needs to uncouple the high neck, so he presses the button on the solenoid uncoupler, presses the uncouple shuffle, the high neck moves backwards and then forwards into the loco head shunt. After switching the points, the high neck is now clear to run around the arrivals train on one of the 2 access tracks and makes its way down to the loco storage track. Through one of the 2 double slips and into its own storage area. The sound on the high mech is turned off, or the high mech shuts down, whichever way you look at it. And our focus then changes to our little shunter. Our little 08 shunter has sound fitted and has a stay alive capacitor installed to get it through some of these points that can be awkward for a little 060. Now the first task for our shunter is to get that brake van off of this train so we can actually unload its cargo. So the first thing we do is couple up to the guard's van. And then pull all the train backwards until the guard's van to the blue circle cement wagon is over the solenoid uncoupler, because we need to uncouple the guard's van from the wagons. And once in position, Richard again presses the solenoid uncoupler, actions the uncouple shuffle, and pulls the guard's van clear. Next we have the long haul to the bottom of the departures line, so across the three-way point, then across one of the two double slips onto the outside track, which is the departures line. Heading down the departures line, we come across a fixed magnet in the track where we shall uncouple. Now there's a feature with KDs that if you uncouple on the magnet and stay in position with the jaws apart, you can push the wagon clear of the magnet without it reattaching, which is what Richard has just done. So deserting our guard's van, our shunter heads back out, ready to start on the wagons, and we have 3 vans which will stay on this train, but those 3 blue circle cement wagons are destined to stay here to serve one of the industries. So with the points changed, we couple up to the blue circle wagons and then pull those back until the coupling between those and the vans is above the solenoid uncoupler. Once in position, hopefully Richard presses the button, the uncoupler shuffle takes place. Ooh, but not this time. It's never 100%. Let's have another go. Second time lucky. So Richard removes the 3 cement trucks, goes back into his head shunt, and these are coming over to the industry where the tankers are laid up. So we need to change a few points. That's the 3-way point. Oops, hang on, wrong button, Richard. It's better. So he's changed the 3-way point and also the double slip to allow these 3 cement wagons into the far siding. Once more we see a permanent magnet ready for these wagons to be uncoupled. Richard positions them above the permanent magnet. Carries out the uncouple shuffle and moves the shunter clear. Now, to keep things reasonably simple, next thing we need to do is to collect those 3 vans and hook those up to the guard's van. And as you can see, the little white dots there, all the points are numbered until we get around to building some kind of a layout board to show which points are of which numbers, so we can sort of change them more easily. It's something that we can rely on train controllers to do, but it's nice to be able to do these things completely manually away from our wretched computers. And so we now start to build our outgoing train. So Richard takes those 3 vans and the guard's van forward over the front permanent magnet. The wagons to go on the front of the train are the 3 open wagons we see there in the top left hand side, and obviously they're the wrong way around for Richard to get the shunter on them, so we have to carry out the more complex manoeuvre of getting those wagons out and then doing a runaround. So once the points are changed, we can move on to collect them. And this is where we come across one of the errors that I've made with the magnet placement, because Richard wants to unhook those wagons, but there is no magnet at the left hand side of that siding, so he's forced to use the one at the front. This means, of course, that the points now become unavailable because we've blocked the points. And after a quick run around, we come back around the other side, and hopefully when we hook up to these open wagons, having changed the points, none of the wheel flanges are trapped. But it shows that we need to install uncoupling magnets at the other end of that siding. And now to back these wagons down to complete the build of our train. So Richard uncouples, moves forward slightly with the jaws open on both the shunter and that open wagon, and is able to push the train back to ensure the high neck comes in and couples up on a straight piece of track. And so with this task complete, the 08 goes back into its storage area. Time for some lunch for our driver and shunter. So time to wake up our high mech. And they can now set about coupling up to the train, which needs to go over to the goods yard, St Margaret station, formerly known as the branch line. And so with its train now intact, our high mech departs from Revell's yard. Now one thing I need to sort is a signal here to allow permission for the train to leave the yard itself and then head on down the line towards the main circuits. An interesting evolution, I hope you'd agree, but it just shows the detail that you can sort of carry out on these quite simple shunting operations. And I'm pleased to say that there were no hands of God all over the layout. You know, with decent couplings that have been configured properly, it all worked out well. Oh, and sorry, well done, Richard. It's well worth mentioning. Well, I must confess, I was extremely pleased with the way Revell's yard performed. I mean, all the point motors worked perfectly. There was no snagging up with power on the high mech or the shunter. Everything performed sort of impeccably, really. I was most surprised. Then I had a brainwave and thought, I know, I'll get my DPU towing a parcels gov and then take those around and see if they work out okay. Well, that was a mistake, wasn't it?
You can hear it shorting out. Hear it?
See, I just see that hell of a...
Yeah, that moves, but why is it moving? That's the thing. It's moving because it's catching on the bit of plastic things in there. As the wheels go around, it goes around, but it shouldn't. That's not what's causing the issue. This issue. The wheels are grazing against here somewhere, enough to short it. But I don't understand how, because nothing else has been shorted up through there. You can hear it sparking as it comes through. Hear it? Did it keep going that time? Let's stop there then.
So I hope you enjoyed that segment. We found lots of problems with the design of the freight yard, but Richard giving a hand, you know, sorted a few things out as he went, didn't we?
We did very well.
But I think it's fair to say I've got a lot of work to do.
Yes, I think you have, yes.
Anyway, moving on. And so, on to the lessons learned from this little evolution. Well, we need 4 more magnets in these areas with the yellow dots, because if you bring the wagon up here, you need to uncouple it here and to allow your shunter to move around and perhaps get around the other side of it. More importantly, though, is the issue with this head shunt, because this point ends just here. So when our shunter brings up 3 wagons to the buffers, we still aren't clear of this point. If you can see, there's the blades of the point, and we are not clear. So clearly this center track needs to be extended. So how are we going to do that? Well, clearly the easiest way is to just cut into this section of hillside and either extend all 3 or just the centre one back. We don't need much, we only need about 1 wagon length, so it only needs to come back sort of 2 or 3 inches. But these are the only real problems that we've come across on Revell's yard. So what was wrong with the DPU in the first place to cause that shorting issue? Well, it was simply, well, I think it's simply the back-to-backs, because this is my 14.5 gauge, courtesy of DCC Concepts, and it is very tight. As you can see, I've taken off the base plate from the bogies, and now I can get in here and adjust this properly. It's not quite ideal because the cog is in the way of the gauge, but if I kind of twist them, and then I can get in here and... But it's noteworthy that the initial reading of these wheels, oh, that's better, was 14.3, and obviously what I'm after on my layout is 14.5. That's just a little loose now, but you can do it by just twisting the wheels and putting pressure on them. Right, and to gauge that, and they're coming in at, hey, what a surprise, 14.49. So 14, no we don't, Do we? Yep, we have our 14 point. We have our 14.5. Beautiful. So it's a case of doing all 4 wheel sets, and then we'll bung it back on the layout and check it out. Well, as you can see now, she's running through that double slip faultlessly. No problem at all. And no problem with the 3-way point either. If I just bring it back the other way and turn the sound on, because obviously the sound was cutting out when it hit the short. Well, the diesel parcels unit seems to be running well now, but it wasn't just the back-to-backs. When I put in the last wheel set, there was a bent pickup, so which I straightened out and obviously reassembled. So whether the bent pickup had anything to do with the shorting, we'll never know. But with the bent pickup sorted and the back-to-backs sorted, she seems to be running just fine. One other point of note was when she ran across the 3-way point, you could see one of the back wheels lifting. Now that clearly is to do with the back-to-backs, and obviously the tolerances on that 3-way points are quite tight. But hopefully we've got a reliable asset back at Chadwick. Marvellous. That wraps this one up. No time but to thank the patrons for their support. Thank you very much indeed. If you want to become a subscriber, there's the old subscribe button. Subscribing is free. Come on, hit the old button. And there's a video here, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.